Welcome to Athletes to Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct. We've created a platform to help people to network and connect through their affinity groups, whether it's colleges, athletes, it could be fraternities, sororities, business alumni. And what we're trying to do is everything we can to help out with various content. And this show has been created to teach and inspire athletes that there is life after sports. And there is plenty of issues in transitioning out. Today we have Chantelle Lott on, and we're excited. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And we want to make that impact in here. So again, the big idea is teaching inspire athletes that there is life after sports. So Chantelle she went to Tulsa, and she was an elite collegiate runner there. Now she's a literacy advocate. And more importantly, she is a CEO and founder of Bounceless. And we're going to hear all about that. But welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. This is great. I love what the work you're doing. And yeah, life after sports is what it is.
Absolutely. So I always start out, make it real simple. So talk a little bit about growing up and playing sports and how that kind of shaped your personality leading up to college and beyond.
Yeah, I didn't start, organization of sports in middle school, where it was through the school, and I played basketball and I ran track. Now, basketball was not my thing, and my mom even was like, "You look awkward," but I made some shots. I did my part, but track was my thing. So I started running track in middle school, and I ran through college. And so, really, the mindset of an athlete, like sticking through it, starting something, sticking to it. That started early for me. I think I've always had this winning mentality, because even before track, people are always racing. And at some point, girls are always faster than boys. So that was like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I got this. So that was my thing, just to keep running and chasing people.
Now you would have been faster. I ran too, but I was a distance runner, so you would have been faster than me all the time.
Well,
Anyways,
you can run longer than I
that's right. I cut it out and persevere. So,
can.
um, talk a little bit about. Did you ever want to be a professional athlete? I know you said you started middle school. Was there any dream of being a professional athlete in whatever sport that might have been?
Yeah, I wanted to be an Olympian.
Okay.
That dream came in high school, and I wanted to try out for the Olympics. Would have been in 2004. I will say I was faster in high school. My collegiate career didn't go as well as I had planned, so that dream did not happen for me to become an Olympian. But I mean, great lessons learned. Still got to compete and do what I love, but I just did not go on to the next stage.
That's well. I mean, most people, I think they say less than like 1% of people do get to that next stage of professional sports. I mean, for me, everybody that listens to the show, I always joke around. I said I wanted to be a major league baseball player. Unfortunately, the talent wasn't there, so I'm doing shows like this now.
Yeah,
So,
track was the only thing I would have done professionally. I couldn't think of anything else. Everything else would have been just for fun, just to see what it was about. But track was my thing.
yeah, that's great. So let's kind of fast forward and going into college and as a collegiate athlete, there's so many demands on your time. Just everything that you have to do. When you were there, was there any, I guess, preparation for the future of once you're done with sports? Did Tulsa have that at all?
They have, I mean, you have your career fairs. I'll say this about college, first of all, like people going in, what do you want to be when you grow up? I still think even as a freshman, it's still young, too early to decide what you want to be, because here I am in my 30s, still this is not the path that I would have chose when I was 18. Like I went into social work and education, and that has nothing to do with me being what my company is. Although being an athlete does, but in preparation for it, whatever it was that you studied, I think they prepared us for it. But if your mindset is to continue on to become a professional athlete, I didn't have that opportunity, so I couldn't speak on the preparation for it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it right now is just more so. I think of people. I think a lot of athletes you'll talk to, they are that sport. What were you? You're a runner. Like they don't think of like beyond that. That's because they're so consumed by it. So it kind of more so of trying to work within a school, and if they have classes and different things, I mean, I know they have, like you said, the different events and all that, but like more so of classes preparing, like, hey, once your career is over, here's some of the different things that you could do. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. No, we did not have that at all. Like, I think for me, my mindset, yes, I wanted to be an Olympian, but I always knew there was a different path for me. Like, I did not set my mind on being a professional athlete. And I remember even talking to youth. I did some summer coaching, and I would let them know, if you're going off to college, you are a student first, so student athlete. Remember, student. So my mindset was always a little bit different. I had my mindset that I was not going to be a professional athlete forever if I went into that. So I always wanted to have something, a backup plan that I could fall upon.
that's the key right there. Yeah, backup plan. Because I think, we're trying to. That's one of the things we're trying to do too. So work with different partners to kind of get into universities and talk about that. Because I think there's some schools that probably are doing it. There's a lot of schools that aren't, and it not necessarily that they don't want to do it. It might just be they don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah.
Especially challenging times today.
It's
So
definitely worth it's definitely worth talking about to young
yeah,
folks, because a lot of people, and a lot of athletes go into it thinking, this is who I am and I have to make this work. And I've seen hearts broken when that is not the reality.
yeah, no, that's true. One of the things I get, we talk a lot about athletes or just people in general, networking, connecting. Was there any kind of at Tulsa? Was there alumni coming back, like alumni athletes, and not just for the basic golf tournaments or things like that, but was there any interaction there with coming back and working together with the current athletes or mentoring?
I can't recall seeing that happening. No, not
Yeah.
working directly with them.
And obviously times change because I mean I look back. I mean when I was in school many more moons ago than you, and you're a little more current than me, obviously on that. But yeah, I think it's something that getting alumni involved. I mean, I always talk about when I went to University of Delaware, and I talk about like if I meet other people from Delaware, especially down here in South Florida, you have that kind of connection of, oh wow,
Yeah.
we went to the same school. So yeah, I think like having that athlete interaction, or not even the athletes, just alumni in general, to
Yeah.
be able to work with current students there.
I think that would make a difference, because any type of mentorship or guidance is definitely needed, especially life after college, because you're still young, you're still navigating what it is you want to be when you grow up, or what it's like afterwards. I think you go from high school, that's still an environment where you're all collected and together. You go to college where that's still an environment, you're still there, and then you get out into the real world and you're still like you're a fish out of the pond, like trying to figure things out. So I think that part right there would be great for universities.
Yeah, and I know like I've talked to like one guy I was talking to, and he played football, and when his career was over, kind of spiraled. I mean, and it's unfortunate. It's the case with a lot of these athletes where that's all they've known growing up, and ultimately he got himself out of it. But I asked him, I said, if there would have been some type of a platform out there where you could network and connect with alumni, where potentially you can get a job or they could mentor you, or you could maybe they're investors, whatever it might be, would have that helped? And he said yeah, it would absolutely change the trajectory of his life.
So these are things that are happening that people aren't talking about. So you're
Right.
bringing light to a sensitive matter.
Yeah, and try and not and trying to definitely do it not from a negative perspective, but like
Yeah,
how do
definitely.
we how do we all work together to help out? So one of the big things today that everybody's kind of talks about is NIL, name, image, likeness. Kind of give me your thoughts on that.
Um, it definitely something that I can see benefits the athletes. I remember, people will say, I'm going to my job, referring to practice and training. If you were on a full scholarship, that was your job, your way to get your college paid for. But it goes beyond that, because even after you leave, if people are, you've long graduated, but your name's still associated with the university and the sport, and you're
Right.
not profiting off of it. So I definitely see that it is a great benefit for those athletes who have put in the work and made a name for themselves. I do think they deserve to be paid, because I mean, ultimately, even thinking about even though I was on a full scholarship, there were still expenses that I had to pay for,
Right.
that I even had to maybe get a summer job for. So if I'm working for these things and my name is out there for the university's benefit, I do agree that they should be paid for it.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I mean, and I've heard both sides of it, because the flip side is that I remember talking to one guy, and he was a former NFL player. So, back when he was, in school, it didn't exist, and he thinks it's great. He wishes he had it. The only concerns that he brought up, and I think like everybody talks about it, like, let's say financial literacy, is
Oh
that
yeah.
you have these athletes, and I always say athletes, but really it's anybody young because they just don't necessarily understand. But hey, guess what? You got to pay taxes, or
Yeah.
and some of these deals are pretty lucrative, so you got to invest. So I think there's definitely a need for that education, and I know back to everything. I mean, some schools are doing it, some aren't, and I think that's something that has to happen.
And financial literacy needs to be taught, like you said, for everybody, because a lot of people come out of it not knowing what to do with the money they're going to be making as soon as they graduate. But particularly for athletes, especially if you get a lump sum of money and you've never had that much money, what do you do with it? Like investing, learning the basics of investing and savings and all that comes along with it definitely needs to be taught, particularly if you are a high profile athlete.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Talk a little bit about the transition out of sports, and it's different for everybody. Talk about kind of your journey once you were done running.
For me it was I think a simple transition, just because again I think I knew that I was done, and I just at that point it was just okay, let's get into the real world, find a real job that does not involve being an athlete. But what I will say is I think that being an athlete did help me prepare for the no's and that I would get in life, like the losses. I would say the no's when it comes to no, you didn't get this job, or you weren't a fit for this job. You keep pressing forward. But did I stop running? No, it didn't change the fact that running was still a part of me, and I wanted to do that, and I felt I needed to do that to stay active. I will say this, that I found that I'm a very competitive person in nature. And so whatever I go after, I'm always thinking this is a competition, when in reality, some things were not competition. I should not have taken it as such. But my mindset was always, okay, this is a competition. Go out there and win. So in that respect, I needed to learn that not everything was a competition. But I will say, I'm interested in transitioning back into being an athlete, not to the point that I feel like I need that part of me, but for me, that's the only way I feel like I can stay routinely active and physically engaged in life, is if I am training for something. So that would be the only reason, not that I have to go out there and make money off of it, but simply for my own benefit, that I need this type of routine to stay physically active.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I ran cross country and track in college or high school, college, and I got hurt my sophomore year. For me, the transition wasn't too tough either. And I think it was interesting. I was on a show, another podcast, and he was asking me about running, and I think for me, I wasn't an elite runner, so that might have played some of it. But maybe more too, like you, as I realized, okay, well, the time is kind of coming to an end for me. I said, do I want to keep doing it, or do I want to be able to run around and play with my kids in the future when I have that? And I still do, but to your point, I still run today. I just don't really run competitively. So
Yeah. And I think whatever you do can still very much be a part of your life. I just think that don't let it consume you, is what I would tell like either young folks getting ready to transition out of it. Like, you are more than your sport. And so like whatever you study, you chose whatever major you wanted for a reason. So tap into those passions, because if your sport was your only passion, then what do you do without it? And so that's where you have to learn yourself. And I loved learning about myself, what I like and what I didn't like. And that happened outside of track.
right, no, that's a great point. And you kind of answered my other question about just kind of advice that you give them. But you're right. You just like I mentioned before briefly, a lot of people identify themselves as the athlete and not the person. And I
Mm.
think you need to look at look at what you want to do and pursue it.
Yeah, and realize that a lot of people don't make it to that next level, so be prepared for that. Like I would want definitely you to be prepared for, this is not going to happen for me. So what's next?
That's great. And then I guess so. Kind of just to build a little more about that, um, from an advice standpoint, how would you advise them to maybe utilize those skills learned through athletics to then get them through this transition to the next level?
Think about the times where, because you don't always win. So what are those emotions? How do you get past that? You're going to need to utilize that in life. I remember when I was a freshman, I told myself, like, I'm going to run under 25 seconds. And I remember the track meet, and I ran 24:99. So
Wow.
this is in the 200. So as an adult, when I was doing pitch competitions for my business, and I just got into this 24.99 mindset. And so anytime I was like, this is the mindset that and anytime I like am truly in that mindset, I usually win. So I take that with me. Whatever lessons you learn, however you get into the mode, your beast mode, that's what we used to call it. I don't know if y'all still call it that these days. But whatever mode that is for you to go out there and win, that's what you need to tap into when you are going with life too.
Yeah, that's great. No, I certainly agree with that. So, talk a little bit about, we were talking some of the different things you're doing, and the big one we'll get into with your business. But talk about, you said you're getting into literacy. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, I love reading, and I love seeing young children learn to read, and even older children too, because I believe our leaders need to be readers. So literacy is very important to me because it's a gateway to more knowledge. And if someone didn't teach it to you, you know how to read, you can teach it, you can learn it for yourself. So I'm very passionate about literacy. I was an early childhood educator, and I just like loved working with little kids. And even though they would recite exactly how I read to them, like that, I just love that intonations and everything. But I find it disheartening. I work closely with some schools just because I want to be a volunteer. I want to be in the community to be an example to kids. And I find it disheartening that a lot of them are below grade level, even before COVID and all that. So now further
Yeah.
behind too. So I am very passionate about making sure they can read, because that literacy skill can take them further. They can learn how to become their own owner of a business. They can learn a lot of different things if they know how to read for themselves. So that's why I'm very passionate about literacy.
That's great. It is really important, and getting it at a young age and just getting these children to want to learn. I guess that's the key, is to want to read and want to learn. Talk a little bit about. So we're going to talk about your business, but take us a little bit through the journey of becoming an entrepreneur. So, kind of, you've come up with this idea, and I'll let you talk all about the business and all that, but you kind of take us through that of like how long it may be that idea when it came up, and just take us through that whole process.
All right. So I graduated from college in 2007, and the idea was for me to keep running, again, training. But I remember it was at a track meet my senior year in college. I was like, I'm going to design a sports bra. Mind you, I have no fashion or design experience whatsoever. I probably at that time could only know how to sew on buttons. But I remember finding a notebook, and it had the year 2008 on it. And I had this is again my process, my mind. I'm a sprinter, so everything has to come fast for me. But I had like a 6 to 9 month plan of when I was going to design this product and take it to market. That notebook said 2008.
Wow.
We started product development in 2015. Again, all this time I'm still like trying to figure out what works too, but finding somebody to do a prototype, that happened in 2015. We had a soft launch with a product in 2019, and then we just launched again in 2021 with our patented product. So I say that to say, yes, my business idea came from me being an athlete, because I wanted a sports bra that fit my needs. I designed sports bras for fuller bust women. I'm no longer wearing 2 or 3 sports bras to work out, but that came out of a need, that because I was an athlete and I struggled with that. So I wanted to meet that need for myself, and I'm finding that other women have that problem as well. And so I just took what I learned from being an athlete, that mindset. You got to keep going. Like, there were a lot of knockdowns, there were a lot of setbacks. I was on many relays in high school. Well, from middle school through college. So I've only dropped the baton once. And so I know what that feeling is like. And there were several drop batons in starting this business. And so I think there are a lot of analogies and metaphors that can come out of being an athlete and transitioning to being a business owner. You just take that mindset with you. You take the losses, you take the wins, there's a finish line you want to cross over with these milestones. So there are a lot of things that I revert back to as an athlete that I utilize in my business.
That's great. Just listening to that whole thing, I mean, think of the journey from 2008 to a idea in a notebook to, how long it took, but also I think, I mean, obviously life gets in the way, and I'm sure there's things along the way that come into play, but just to be able to, the key was, you said, there was a problem and you came up with the solution, and then it's everything along the way. Like for me in this whole journey, it's not about like a patented product per se. And I think I'm sure that takes time as well. All of us have watched enough Shark Tank. So I think I'm sure it takes time to do all that, but that was a great explanation of kind of getting there. So, here we are today. So talk a little more. This is, I always say at the beginning, is that I give that initial kind of 30,000 foot view, but now, talk about your business and, what you're doing. You kind of took us the genesis of it, but now what are you doing today and how can people find you?
Yeah, today we are just trying to ramp up sales. That's what we're doing, trying to get the word out and help more women enjoy what they love to do without the annoyance or embarrassment of the bounce. So you can find us at bounceless.com and at Instagram or all the platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We are and we're slowly getting on TikTok, but at Lift Bounceless is where you can find us on the social medias. But we really I see this as a health problem. If women don't have the support that they need to work out, they're not going to work out. And that does start with the sports bra. You're not going to want to pull over 2 or 3 sports bras. Like, get rid of the pullovers. Ours is fat front closure. Like, so there are a lot of barriers just thinking about, what do I need to work out? And if it's 2 or 3 sports bras, or even just one, and you get sweaty, you're trying to get out of it, that's not a good look. Doesn't feel comfortable, and it's very annoying. So we just really want to solve the problem for women to be able to work out comfortably and confidently, whatever that may be. And talking to women, they're paying trainers, they're paying for gym memberships, and they're saying, "Oh, I can't do this." Like, so, we want to be able to say, yes, you can, and go out there and do it the way you want to. Try new activities, get out there. Again, as an athlete, physical health is definitely important.
Sure.
But this definitely goes way beyond that too, because I find that, some women deal with mental health problems because you're not being physically active. Being physically active can, decrease some of the mental issues that we may have. So it's bigger than me. I do believe, and I just really want to be impactful and provide the support that women need so that they can live the life that they want to live.
That's great. That's awesome. And we'll definitely, we'll put the information in the show notes, of, how to find you and the website and all that. And for us, you can find us at alumnidirect.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, and the show. You can find us on our YouTube channel for Alumni Direct, as well as we're on all the different podcasts. But we want to make a positive impact in really helping in the issues with, the transition out of sports. It is a major problem today, as we started the show, with the mental health challenges and financial issues and a lot of other things. So this is great, Chantelle, the information. I encourage everybody who has that and needs that issue, looking for that product solution, definitely, reach out to Chantelle and go out to her site and help her out. But thank you so much for being on the show today, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Robin. You're doing great work out there too. Keep it up.
Thank you so much.